Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel, Art Classes My Way. We are going to turn this little piece of poly clay into a pendant. Now by the time I got done with sanding this little guy, I didn't mind the burned edges that much. It added a depth of color to it and richness that I really liked. And the black, it kind of ends up, or where it was black and burnt, kind of ended up making it look a little bit more organic, like an actual stone a little bit. Not all stones are, absolutely all one beautiful color. At least, the really super expensive ones, the $1,000 stone, yeah, sure, those will be gorgeous all the way through. But I like the more rustic, organic look. And when I got done sanding this guy, there was a pit right in there where air basically got trapped and kind of exploded a little bit, and I filled it in with my polish here, my clear coat, so that way it's nice and stable. So I think that turned out very well. So what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to turn him into a pendant that's being suspended from both sides of a necklace. And what I have gone ahead and done here is I've made him two different cages. So they're both the same, with the same weave, and made sure to give myself enough end here so that way I have plenty of fancy stuff that I can play with. And pretty much I just wove this so that way it should only come about halfway around the piece. If it doesn't, then I will have to unweave some of it just a little bit. And why don't we just see how well I did. But show you how I did this. It's 4 wires. I curled each one of them at the end, tied them together with 1 wire here. Let's wait for it to focus. I tied it together with 1 wire here, and I started weaving. I want to make sure I gave myself good enough amount of length. That way if I had to tie or do anything up front. I don't use measurements because a lot of the times, one, you're not always going to find the same size stone that I have. And not every measurement's going to fit for all the stones. So the reason I don't give measurements of what I do is because of that. Now, I handmade this. I could tell you what the measurements are, but unless you hand make your own poly clay centerpiece, you're probably not going to find something that's that shape or that size. And plus it's just a little flat disc. But anyway, now as far as a good length of wire goes here, there's probably about a foot of extra tail here for me to do with whatever I need. And if I don't end up needing all of it, when I cut it off, there'll be so much left that it'll be easily woven into something else. Now, as far as the weave I did, let it focus here, I went around 3 of these wires 5 times. Then, instead of going all the way down to the end, came around and did the leftmost 3 wires 5 times, stop, go around the other wires 5 times again, and it just basically makes a checkerboard pattern all the way across. And you can kind of see one of my tails there that I need to cut off. That's where he pretty much ended. And then I had to go get a new wire and continue onwards from there. Now, as far as how to do the turnaround goes, basically, so I've done those 5 on this side. Instead of going all the way around to the back, I just go around this outermost wire 1 time. And then I start going around those 3 wires. And go around those 3 wires 5 times. Then I go around, just around the outermost wire once. And then I can start going back the other direction. It's very, very simple, easy weave to do, and I'm hoping that I'm not going to confuse anybody by jumping this far ahead of you all, but you're all very intelligent, smart people. I'm sure you'll get it. Otherwise, do let me know down in the comments section if this is obnoxious for all of you or not, to go this far ahead and get started with pretty much what I think is probably the more fun part rather than worrying about the weaves. So we've gotten that guy all done, and these are both constructed the exact same way. Again, I've got 2 of them going. Whoop! With a lot of tail to get tangled up in, and all that good stuff. So I'm going to start shaping this guy. Go around. Looks like I've woven way too far again. Yeah, I've almost woven it halfway around. So I'll have to unweave it, but now that I know how far to go, I can pretty much about 1, 2, 3 of those. So 3 of those back. It's quite a bit. Now, I'll go ahead and do that off camera, but again, the goal is to make it to where this guy only covers half of this. He comes basically across here, and that leaves room for this guy to come in with the curls that I made facing outwards for him to come around across the top part, starting from halfway and going around. Kind of give you an idea. So I'll be right back. Alright, as you can see here, more what I was trying to go for. And in a way, it's a lot easier to accidentally go overboard when you're weaving. And how I ended up just turning these edges was by taking my hop, bringing it all the way up to where my weave pretty much ended, and then just pulling down this way and pulling these guys down, so that way they're out of the way for me. Oh, all these tails, oh my god. I'm regretting many things right now. But anyway, which allowed me to form fit this guy. Now, if you're really wanting to get a really good round shape to put your stone in like this, another recommendation, you could always go and get a dowel rod to shape these guys around first, because I mean, obviously the stone isn't like a perfect circle either. I, just shaped him with sandpaper pretty much. And if you guys want to see more on polyclay, do let me know in the comments section. I'm more than happy to go over some more of the beginner stuff like that with you. But one of the other things that I use to try to shape these rounder bits is my one of my hammers, my chasing hammers. The handle of it, because it starts off very narrow, very small, and then as it goes down the handle, it gets wider and wider. Now, there's at the end of the handle, it has the flat sides, but still, the top of it, in between those flat sides, that's still really nice and round in the cylinder, so that still makes for great shaping as well. So, I got these guys pretty much where I want them now. And how am I going to put them together? That's a good question. You see, I got this great big long tail on the end here for this guy. And what I have done when, which I do believe I mentioned, I took this tail and I took him through here about 3 or 4 times. It helps keep the wire from like, or at least these hoops that you make, from like wiggling around on you. From here, I'm going to just take this and pick up my weave right where I left off and start weaving this together here. And it's not going to be easy, and at least doing it, you don't have to worry about making sure that this side meets up with this side while you're doing it. You just want these 2 ends to meet up correctly. And let's see here, where I left off is over here on the far side. And I want to come around, and instead of just wrap around, because then that's only going to leave you with one very teeny tiny 30 gauge wire holding this whole thing together. We don't want that. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take it through the hoops here. There, went through that time. I'm going to take it through those hoops. You want to be very careful. You don't want to work hard in your wire too much at this point. Pull it through, come up, go around, just like, like I regularly would when I'm continuing with this weave. And already that's pretty stable just doing that alone. But come around, I'm going to try to, there we go, stick that through those holes there. And once you do this about 4 times, you're pretty much ready to go, and it's going to be about as solid as you can get it. I'm going to try to reduce the amount of moving by going ahead and having it kind of like scissor my fingers here. Go through. Now I've gotten that wrapped around there 5 times, just like I did with the entirety of the weave. It may look a little funny because it is going around a curve right there. So once I got done with that, or going around my 5 times, I take my wire, and instead of going through the hoops again, just gonna take off like it was a regular weave, wrap it around this outermost wire 1 time, and then start going around the other set of 3 wires. And then you just continue on like it was, like absolutely nothing ever happened. But I only want to do this for the next 5. There we go. That one is all hunky-dory. I'm just going to slide him up there, make sure he's nice and tight. I have a plethora of kitty cats watching all these dangling wires like hawks. So now we got that done. Now we're just going to basically do the exact same thing, except on the side that we haven't done just yet. And as you can see, that's going to fit in there just wonderfully. Might take some reshaping here and there. I got a couple spots that I'm going to have to fix. This is a little too pointy. But as soon as I get that smoothed out, then he's going to meet up with this area just fine. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead where this is already done and show you guys the next step. Haha. So I've gotten this guy all together, and he fits in there just snug as a bug in a rug. Although he will very easily pop out if I'm not careful. So, and the next step is to go ahead and curl these guys here. So I'm just grabbing hold of the outermost wire, which is what I've already done on one side. Grab a hold of make sure that wire's on my way. I'm gonna grab a hold of this guy and just start rotating him very tightly in the beginning. And then I'm going to just kind of build on it. So now we have 1 coil, and now I'm going to take this coil and wrap it around there 1 time as well. And this wire, get it out of my way. I want to do the same over here, mirroring that. Make sure you take off your coil in the same direction, but I suppose you could go in the opposite direction if you would like. Now for these 2 middle wires, and I've been asked in the past before, how do you change the weave that you are currently doing? Well, this is a great place to change the weave that we currently just did. I'm wanting this wire and this wire, the 2 outer wires, to not be a part of this, so we just have a 2-wire weave. It's going to be changing right in here, right in a great transition period, so you don't have to worry about hiding it or anything like that. It just feels natural for it to change there because we just lost 2 wires, so of course it's going to change how the weave looks because those 2 wires have just separated off and branched off in a different way. So I'm going to go ahead and do a pretty simple weave where I'm gonna get these guys out of my way first. There we go. I'll put them back later. This is going to be a pretty simple weave, and I'm going to use up the rest of my tail to do it. And I might just do this one side first, and we'll see how it goes from there. I'm going to wrap around one side, go over, wrap around the other wire, come underneath, wrap around, and just basically going around, wrapping around. It's a pretty simple thing. Nothing fancy here. And I want these two to be relatively tightly woven together, because I really don't foresee doing anything too terribly different with them. Now, what I do recommend, with the exception of this area right here first, that anything that you decide to do with these wires, and if you go ahead and weave both of these middle wires first to create a ribbon, and that's normally what I call, like for instance, this section here, that's a ribbon. I'm weaving these two sections here, they're a ribbon after I'm done. And if you decide you really want to have two ribbons on both sides, I recommend that whatever you do to one side, you also do to the other side. It's just easier to just, okay, I did this wire, I want it on the other side, I'm going to do it with that wire, I'm going to do it on the other side. So that way you don't forget how you moved it, where you moved it to, and how it is that you did what you did. I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and weave this whole ribbon, and why not? I'll do this one as well. So if you want to go ahead and meet me in the future, see you soon. From here, I've decided I was going to do two different kinds of weaves. They're not too terribly different from each other going up either side. You can feel free to do the same, or you can make them different from each other. I was kind of toying with the idea of making this almost flippable. So that way, if you wanted to, you could wear it from either side. So that's kind of the concept I'm going with. And I didn't end up going all the way to the ends, because now I can use these as a decorative element. I may still yet go ahead and finish weaving them all the way to the ends anyway, though. So I'm going to take these guys. I'm going to kind of rotate my ribbon and then start bending them around a little bit. And you can use a dowel rod to do this as well, and it might turn out better overall. Over and up. And I'm trying not to touch, because I've touched up the glaze that was on this. You can see my fingerprints, and I was not happy with that. So I'm trying not to touch the actual stone that I've made here. Now, go ahead up there, and I want to bring this around the side, following my curve. Which actually, why don't I just go ahead and bring him over to the side. The hopper will grab a hold of one area, and he'll want to fold it over to the side instead of bending so much. So I'm going to bring this around to the edge a little bit more. There we go. That's better. So that way I can shape it like so. Now I think that is exactly where I wanted it all to pretty much go and end, because now I can open up these guys. And this is purely luck that I didn't have to unwind anything here. That's always a nice thing when that happens. Go ahead and just kind of slide this guy underneath that curl that I made. And then with my fingers I can come in and kind of adjust some things here and there. And now I have two cool decorative elements. Sweet. Now that I've done that, let's go ahead and flip him around and make sure that I went backwards. Okay, so I'm going to flip him around so that way it faces the same way for me. So I'm going to want to go around the opposite side. There we go. Yeah, that's duh. Make that a little bit taller. That way it kind of at least looks similar to the other side here. going around that little spiral. Let's get these guys out of my way more. I'm going to kind of push this over so that way I can start to form it to the outermost edge. And I went a little too far this time with this side. Both sides done here. And pretty simple little process. Now this guy is holding this in. Now nothing is holding on to this corner or this corner on the back here, but that's what these guys are going to be for, more or less. I'm going to take one of these wires that came off of this guy that I didn't finish weaving all the way down to, and you kind of want to make them do an X shape along the back here, so that way they will hold themselves onto those little spirals for you. And then I'm going to just start shaping them as well to the bezel. And I'm going to tie this guy down. He's kind of basically just acting like a way to make a wire. He's going to hide behind, but he's going to make this wire a wire that has, you can't really much account for, making him appear in a different place. So that way we can have a decorative element in an area that doesn't quite make sense. And I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to kind of go around. There we are. Now to do that to this side, which is going to be this wire. Because he will make the crisscross that will go around our coil right there. Just lift that guy up a little bit. And push him back in. Whoop, a little too far. Come around. And I'm just sliding him in anywhere, get this out of my way, between that ribbon that we curled behind and anything that he'll stick into. Now that that guy is down, I'm going to go behind here with the other part that crossed over. And I want to go around that coil there. And we're going to kind of go up and meet up with our wire that ended up in here. This guy into the same area. And then we can just kind of work on our shaping and getting that a little bit nicer overall. And then we're going to turn around and do the same with this side. All right, now I'm going to come up and over again. Go around, and if you want to use the edge of your piece to kind of shape it, feel free. Go ahead and pre-curling that end there so that way I can get him, have less problems in the future here like I did earlier. I'm going to go back behind with it. Find a place to hook him in. And then go ahead and come back and start shaping that wire a little bit more to where I want it. There we go. Easy peasy. And just keep in mind, sometimes just coming in here with your fingers and just kind of, like, if you can see how there's a kind of a corner right here and kind of a corner right here, I want this to be a much smoother, rounder area. Now that I've kind of got it pre-built a little bit and some of these wires are out of my way, I can come in here, put my thumb here as a support, and then using this is why my nails look awful all the time, I'm going to use my nail to push on this side to try to mellow out that curve and making it look a little nicer, and just going slow and steady. It takes quite a bit, I do understand, and it takes patience, but in order to get rid of all the little kinks and things that may happen in your wire, and not getting that perfect beautiful swoop, it takes time. And then with time comes practice, and with practice it will become less and less of an issue in the future. Now, if I had dowel rods, I would probably do a much better job than I currently am, but I do not. So I'm forced to resort to my fingers, and on top of that, also how many times you make the project also helps out quite a bit as well. But practice, time, and patience. And just because it may not be absolutely perfectly beautiful right off the bat, that's okay. You can spend a little bit more time working on it to make it beautiful. Not every piece, just because it doesn't turn out right from the get-go or perfect right from the get-go, doesn't mean that it's a lost cause. I want to kind of round that out a little bit more. There we go. Now for the final touches here, and these guys are pretty much going to be where my necklace is going to come together. So I'm using my fingernail to act as a support to help me round this guy in the beginning, like so. And I'm going to follow kind of in here. I'm going to just kind of take this guy underneath. There we go. There we are. Now I'm pushing, got him where I want him. I'm pushing down right there, and that's, holding him in place. Let's actually go in here again. And we'll get it underneath the wire that we hid under here. And then this will act like the tack down, as well as being decorative for that wire. I'm going to soften out some things around here a little bit. There we go. That's that there. And now this wire that we hid underneath here, he can't come out and pop out anymore because this wire is now holding him back because it's curled around. I just cut off basically where I munched up the wire with by pulling him through and all that. And just go ahead and put myself a little curl right there, and I can, because I have enough depth in that corner, you can leave it as a curl here, but what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and hide him. Maybe what I instead, well, how do you like that? Well, poopsicles. Now, one of my curls ended up falling off, and that's obviously my fault. I've been moving them around way too much, not paying attention to what it is that I've been moving. So, purely all on me. But I'm going to go ahead and continue to reflect this as best I can, but I'm going to do it on the other side here, and I'm going to make it just a little taller. Because of that breaking off, that does change my overall design a lot more than I had wanted it to, but hey, you gotta roll with the punches. It doesn't mean that I can't try this again and do what I wanted to do. And what I wanted to do was to basically mirror this over here, and as you can see, that's where the curl ended up coming off at. Mirror this on both sides, and again, mirroring it on either side here, and then attaching kind of more like a choker and having this be the focal to the choker. But that is now pretty much changed. I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to put him underneath right there. So that way this holds this end in just a little bit better. There's a little bit more wire here to hold it all in. And now this end, from my thinking, this is going to end up being the bottom. The heavier end tends to be the bottom end of a art piece. And to think how I can make this look a little bit nicer. And I think if I just round this curl out a little bit with the end of my hopper here, that looks a little bit better. Now I'm not pushing down with my hopper, I'm just holding on to this part of the wire here, and then I'm pushing the wire over with my fingernails to get him to shape just a little bit differently than he did before. Pushing down in this kind of a situation is not going to help you. As much as just left and right, not up and down. A little bit more of a whimsical look there, but we got some. There we go. Got some fixing that's going to need to be doing, because that curl, if you remember, is what was holding all of that together. Now there's enough there to hook onto, but we're going to need to tack it down for sure now. And we can always do that with this wire. Because now he's reaching around from the back side, and he can put pressure as far as holding everything down from there and keeping it in place. I'm just curling him around. And I want this to be fairly tight to hold him back in place. Now, if your wire hasn't snapped on you, like what it did me, and you behaved yourself a little bit more when it came to getting those wires out of your way, then what I will recommend you do is go ahead and mirror this, both sides, mirror it on both sides over here, and then you can take a jump ring, attach the two, and then you have your choker piece. But that is not how the winds of change have worked for me. Go ahead and cut that off. He's gone around twice there to help hold the fort down. So now we can reshape a little bit. I'll play around with that a little bit more in a bit here. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same that I did with the other side, where I'm taking this wire and wrapping him around so that way he anchors that other wire behind. I'm going to control the curve and get up here. And let's kind of peek him out just a little bit. Then come back in and around again. And then one more time. Right in there. Now I had ended this guy here, and that guy can't separate now. So to kind of change up my design, go ahead and flatten this out, and that wire doesn't look like it's in too bad a shape, just the very end of him kind of does. I'm just going to flatten this out and see if I can't use this to do something else. So, and this is going to be a pretty simple something else. I'm going to go ahead and bring him on through. I'm going to do a little hoop up at the top here. I'm going to be careful of all my other wires here. I'm going to tighten that up, make sure it fits and form fitted. There we go. This is where I wish I had another set of round nose, but make do with what we got. Oh, let's do this first. Put our little kink in. There we go. I don't know what that sound was, don't ask. Take the tail and just go ahead and wrap him around. Make him look all pretty as best we can. And just like tying your shoelaces. I'm gonna just move this guy into position. All my critters are grumbling at me at the moment. All disappointed in me because I messed up. I know, guys, I know. But I still feel it's too pretty of a project to just up and abandon just because it didn't turn out the way I was hoping it would turn out. That doesn't always mean something. So, yeah. And to a point, this side still isn't bad, because this wire is helping with keeping this side down, but as far as like moving him this way and this side, there's nothing really stopping him from doing that. So I think I'm going to do, whoop, don't want to pull it, to end this guy is I'm going to kind of mimic this one wire going this way. I'm going to round him out a little bit first. He's starting to get work hardened to where he doesn't want to kink where I want him to kink and curve where I want him to curve. He's starting to have a bit of a mind of his own where he's just going to throw a tantrum here real soon and say, screw you, I'm done. So we'll just leave it at that, slide him underneath. Come on, poke. Poke on through. Come here. There we are. There he is. That doesn't look bad. So in order to hide that, what we're going to do is we're just going to curl him underneath a little bit. And he kind of curled around that wire that we were running underneath this whole time. Make sure that's in the right place. And there we are. Looks like I'm going to have to put another clear coat on that because I can see my fingerprints and I don't like that. But at least I don't have to put a clear coat all the way out to the edges anymore. And at least looks like, you know, both sides were thought of. Now it's going to hang more like this as a pendant. And just get my fingers in here and just tweak a few things. Smooth out some accidental corners. So that way it looks all nice and smooth. Like, see, you can see where this is kind of peaked right up in there. So I can smooth that out just a little bit. And when you're seeing me grab a hold of this and kind of do something with it like this, what I'm doing is, especially in this instance, since that's the peak, I am taking this to push that peak down, but I'm also using this side to take the slack from pushing that peak down and moving it and rounding it out. And it's very slow, very, you know, working it, and you can see how that got that peak down, and it moved it more this direction. Now, it can go this way, but you'd have to rotate your pliers around to be, you know, where you're pushing down on the peak from here, and you're using this side to take up the slack. It allows you to just kind of move things around a little bit and just be very careful, very subtle. Take your time. I'm going to go ahead and tack this guy down here. Now I can see a little bit of a hole where this ribbon, I can take a regular wire, which I've got plenty of, from where I cut it a little shorter here. Straighten that out. And I'm going to find that hole. Bring you forward so you're out of my way. There. Myself enough of a tail to grab a hold of there. Wrap around that guy once. And then I'm going to go underneath that ribbon again. I'm going to go underneath, wrap around this guy once. Come back underneath that ribbon. And there we have it. So it didn't turn out the way I was hoping it was going to end up turning out, but Just because things don't turn out the way you hope doesn't always mean that you should give up on them immediately. This guy still turned out fairly nicely. I do have to still yet go ahead and refinish this back part so that way fingerprints aren't all over it. But it still turned out to be a fairly nice little piece with a piece of polyclay that I had made myself, and I made that piece of polyclay in a video, so if you want to go and check that out, please feel free. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, subscribe, comment, share. Sharing helps me out tremendous amounts. I do have an Etsy shop. If you want to help my channel, I'd rather you go to my Etsy shop. Find something nice for yourself. A lot of my pieces that I video do end up in my Etsy shop. And if that's a little bit too much for you, you can always go and hang out, help me with my Pinterest. That is, I'm more than happy, even if you can just give $1 a month, that's more than fine with me. That's more than I could ever ask of you, but unfortunately, they won't let me put it at a lower rate than that. I'd be like, yeah, okay, 10 cents. I think 10 cents is more than, you know, people can do, but they won't let me do it. But I do hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thanks for coming and hanging out.